YouTube. Welcome to Jackie's Literary Corner. I am Jackie. So I attempted a video on Thursday when it was snowing here in North Carolina. I wanted to make a video of books that I think are great to read on a snow day if you're stuck inside. And for some reason it didn't film. I don't know why. As I'm recording this, I see the timer and everything. It was too long or something. I don't know. It was weird. So, hopefully this one will go better and will actually film. But this is not that. I'm not doing the same thing. I might film that. I might attempt to film that again. But, the inspiration is kind of over with us, and it's not, the snow is melting and it's back to regular. No snow winter. So, and winter's almost over anyway. It's going to be March. March is right around the corner, and then halfway through March, spring starts. So, I might do it again. I don't know. But I kind of wanted to talk about, again, my plans for this year that I had already talked about in my, my reading, I did a whole video on my reading plans and everything and my reading goals, and I'm still doing that. This is just, and I've elaborated once before, so maybe I'm basically repeating myself here, but I kind of wanted to talk about my ideas again for this year, for my reading this year. And that is, I'm gonna do the reading projects. And I'm really excited because I kind of want to treat it like as if I was taking a class. And I know there are a lot of people who think of academics as boring and like, why would you do that? You're putting pressure on yourself. And I already know that I can't. I'm already aware of the pressure I've already put on myself already. So I'm gonna, put in the effort not to do that. But I want to treat, but like I said, but I think that if treating it like a class, you're reading like a class, could still be fun. I think if you're doing it in a way that you want to do it, and you're like, because people annotate their books all the time. And in a way, people, making YouTube videos, there are some people who do remind me of professors with the way they talk about their books. And it's done in a way that's fun. So, it is like a class, but done in a way that you want to do it, that you find fun, that you're talking about things that you want to talk about. In actual school, you're assigned what to read. You don't get to pick it. You don't get to decide what you're going to talk about. You might get to decide a little bit in the sense that when you do a discussion with your classmates, you're the teachers will often let the students lead the discussion. So in a way, you are talking about what you want to talk about. But it still is based on something that was picked for you. Or there are some teachers that will give you a list of books that you can read from. And that's more prone to happen in college because, although when I was in elementary school and middle school and all that, I was given a list, but it's not like I could, pick those books. It wasn't like me picking them. And while in literature class, in a college class, I was able to pick a book that I wanted to study. So, it's when you get to college where you get to pick things. Like, you get a taste of it in high school, where you get to pick your electives, but you still have a certain list of subjects you have to pick from. Like, you can either do, the musical electives, such as band or chorus, and then or you can be do tech ed, where, you have the electives of, either, working with computers or, I cannot remember what it's called, but the class where, it's not technology like where you're, building something and everything, working with wood and all that. I cannot remember what that would be called. I don't know why. I feel like I can't think of what that's called. Or you could do, well, actually, no, I think chorus and band were separate. So that's either you did the tech ed, or you picked chorus, or you picked band. I did chorus one time. Now, don't be fooled. I'm not a singer. Like, this was, chorus is like, you're in a group, so they couldn't pick out my voice. So yeah, in a way, that's kind of like where you get to choose what you're gonna learn. But again, it's not until college that you really have choices. I mean, you still have to take certain subjects like math and science and English and, social studies. But then once you pass those classes, you can also pick, like, if you want to do a psychology class, or you want to pick a, women's history class, or, a European history class. Or you get to, you pick pick what science you want, whether it's biology, geometry, well, geometry is math, geology, or sociology, or, chemistry and physics and all, or like you get to pick certain math class like statistics or geometry, or, I don't know what the other math type subjects are, because I don't like math. I hate it. I guess finance is kind of a math, but you're more doing certain. Anyway, so, but I think if you treat it, if you can treat your reading without, like, still kind of make it feel like you're still, you're still taking treat it like an academic subject, but in a fun, exciting way. And maybe that's just the nerd in me talking, and maybe, most people would, no matter what, if you treat it like a, like a subject in school, then it's going to be boring, or it's going to ruin the appeal of it. Maybe for some people that's, because, like I said, I'm a nerd. I didn't mind school. I mean, of course, I particularly preferred, history class and English lit and all that. Like, I preferred certain subjects, but, I still enjoyed learning about it and having discussions, and I kind of missed that guideline of, being assigned something and having a timeline of when you have to do something. You have to, like, I like that kind of structure. In fact, that's what, I was trying to tell my parents the other day when we were talking about it, how I'm putting pressure on myself, and how I kind of like having a structure and having a plan. And, they were trying to tell me it's okay not to have a plan, to relax and not put pressure on yourself to get something done. And, don't overwhelm yourself, which is something I need to work on. But I still I feel like I can still have a plan or structure, but just just don't worry as much about it, because it's not like I'm getting a grade for this. And it's not like I'm going to get fired, or I'm going to get in trouble or anything like that. I'm just doing this for fun. So I want to make it fun for me, and I think it can be. So as you guys know, I've already talked about the types of books that I want to focus on. I want to focus on the books on the Rory Gilmore reading challenge that I own. And I've already read one of them, the Valley of the Dolls. I really enjoyed it. I'm going to talk about it in the wrap up at the end of February. But I read it in January. So like I said, I'm going to do a bi-monthly wrap up. So I will talk about the January books and the books I'm reading this month at the end of this month. But I want to... So I've only read one book on that list this year, at least. But it was a long one, so it's an accomplishment to me that I read it. I'm excited because I wasn't sure how I feel about it. I also, I want to say Middlesex is on her list, along with the Virgin Suicides and both by Jeffrey Eugenides. And I don't know if I'm gonna read The Virgin Suicides. I'm apprehensive about it. I don't know. I mean, it's not a super long book, so maybe I'll read it. And but like I think the middle sex is on there, and I'm gonna have to check though and see if that is. But either way, I do want to give this another shot. I mean, there was a reason that I started thinking about that book again, because I bought it once before, but I wasn't sure about it. Like, I started to read it, but then I was hesitant to continue. And then, but like I said, I'm trying to give it another chance. So this is not really, the books on Rory Gilmore Reading Challenge is not, that one's more of a, like, I guess that could be like an elective. That could be seen as like an elective class, like the, Rory Gilmore class or whatever. But there's also that was one of my projects, along with reading books that are hard, books that are intimidating, are hard in a way. Like, there's something about them that makes them intimidating to me, at least, like the writing style. Often it's mostly the writing style. So that would have to be probably, I should whittle that down to a shorter list of books instead of, because I think part of my problem is I like making lists, but then I become overly ambitious and list a lot of things, and then it becomes too much and becomes overwhelming. So I need to stop that. So there's that. So there's that as well. There was that challenge as well, that project as well. And then there are authors, of course. There's my, wanting to focus on certain authors like Stephen King, Anne Rice, Brandon Sanderson. I mean, I already read Brandon Sanderson, but I feel like I'm so sporadic with when I pick up his books. And the same thing with King. Like, I'm so sporadic, and I made a video last year where I talked about wanting to start over with that, because I had already talked about doing a Stephen King project, but then I sort of slacked off with that, because even though I was reading his books, I was reading them like randomly throughout the last few years since I had declared wanting to do that project. So I'm starting over so I can be more efficient with it. And I don't mean like treat it like a conveyor belt. I mean, just I want to, not space it out the times I read his books. I want to read them, not exactly, it doesn't have to be one after the other, but just not have so much time between my reading of his books. Like, the problem I ran into was that most of his books are super long. And I really struggle with committing to longer books. Like, committing as in reading the book in, several days. Like, it's usually years as I read through. Like, I will put it down and be like, oh, I'll come back to it. And then I don't come back to it until a couple years later. And I have forgotten a lot of things. I mean, when I start reading, I will remember some things, but not everything. And this year, I think I'm gonna do a separate review I might do a separate review of this book, but I picked up one of his books that I had recently purchased and was like, let me just go ahead and start one of his books, one that won't take me as long to read, so I can get started on this project, because in January, I didn't read any Stephen King. So, and then there's the two I attempted to focus on last year. I want to continue focusing on this year with Anthony Trollope and Wilkie Collins. The only thing about Wilkie Collins is I only have 3 books from him, at least right now. I have more books from Anthony Trollope than Collins, but that's because I'm reading one of Trollope's series, and I have all the books in the series. And with Wilkie Collins, I only have 3 books. I've already read one of them, so I'm not in a rush with Wilkie Collins, but I do want to read The Moonstone. I think the plan, is to read The Moonstone in March for like March Mystery Madness month. And then, there's and then Dickens is another author that I've kind of slacked on. Again, for similar reasons, the same reason with Stephen King, and actually Brandon Sanderson and Anne Rice too. Like how these authors writes most of the time they write really long books, and they take a long time for me to read, and I get sidetracked by other books that won't take me as long to read, which I always say, but that's always my reason. And I want to make sure I want to stop doing that, but it's going to take some time to get out of that, to break that habit. So I'm going to settle for making sure I read some of their longer books within the year at least. Although I'm not off to a great start. Like I have a lot of both, The Witching Hour and what was it? Oh, and Wizard and Glass. And then Dombey and Son are all books that I've started, and I'm a good chunk of them way into them. I mean, Dombey and Son, I'm like at the halfway point, I think. But I haven't, picked them up in a while. And that's because I'm thinking, oh, this is going to take me a long time, so maybe I should read some shorter books first. And then I'll come back to it. And then I don't ever come back to it. So I'm trying to break that cycle. Which I was doing last year too, but I wasn't doing a very good job in it. So this year I would like to try to change that. So those are some of the authors I'm going to focus on. Now here are some of the other projects. I would say like the author's project is more little ones. And then we have the medium-sized ones, which are the Rory Gilmore Reading List Challenge and and Hard Read Books That Are Intimidating, our Hard Read Harder Challenge. And which, by the way, I got that from I cannot remember his name. That I have not watched one of his videos lately, but there is a YouTube booktuber. I think he can be considered a booktuber. That he's, he refers to hard literature. I can picture him, but I cannot remember his name, and that won't help you guys. I might, if I remember to, I might link his channel. He has a good channel. If you're interested in more deep discussions on classic literature, then he might be someone worth checking out. He's one of the YouTube booktubers I think would be worth checking if you're interested in that looking at reading in that way, like really discussing it and reading classics and all that. But like I said, for some reason I can't think of his name. So anyway, so those are kind of middle, like, the medium-sized challenges, projects. And now here come the two big projects that I would like to prioritize are my Tolkien project and my Asian literature project. So what I would like to, and this is kind of where the whole idea of treating it like a class, like an academic subject. I mean, I would have loved to study, and I mean, some of the other authors I mentioned, like Anne Rice or Stephen King, I would also love to study them and take a class on them, but it doesn't, as far as I know, it doesn't, the community college here in North Carolina does not offer classes on these authors. But I want to, like I said, I want to treat, my Tolkien reading as an actual project, like a big project. I finally got these two Atlas. I showed you guys these when I did my Christmas haul video where my sister got me the Middle-earth Atlas and then a book on the artwork in The Hobbit. And I'm using those as also part of this academic subject, this academic study. And Also, and then Terry got me. I showed you that Terry got me the biography, which I started reading on Tolkien, which is it's really fun. It's so cool to read about him, and I would like to try and read about other authors. I do have one on, and I do actually have a biography on, what is his name? East of Eden author. What, I cannot remember his name at the moment, but I do have his biography. But it is in the donation pile because so far I've only liked East of Eden by him. Steinbeck, that's his name, Steinbeck, John Steinbeck. But so far I've only really gotten into East of Eden, and I might have already donated it. I have to look, see if it's in one of the bags, or if it's already, if it's not in one of the bags since I already donated it. Like, I went kind of back and forth with that one, trying to decide, do I want to read it, even though I only so far have liked East of Eden. It might be interesting to read a biography on Steinbeck. But I don't know. And also, even though, like, I've heard some things about Charles Dickens as a person, he wasn't really much of, he wasn't like a prince or anything. And I mean that metaphorically speaking, because I know he's not a prince. He's not a literal prince, but I mean, but I still kind of I'm still interested in reading a biography about him as well, even if he's not a great guy. Besides, I can't, it's hard to judge these authors by today's standards. But so far, Tolkien seems like a pretty decent guy. Maybe a little bit of a snob. But he seems a very down-to-earth guy, very, he's a devout Christian, or Catholic, devout Catholic, not Christian, because even though they're kind of part of each other, they're kind of the same thing, and there's a separation there. Or I should say Christianity came out of Catholicism, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's how it works. I think Christianity came out of Catholicism, or it might be the other way around. I don't know. I don't know what came from. I need to look that up or double check. But he is a devout Catholic, not Christian Catholic, and he is also, very well read, and of course most people know that he is very good at languages. He studied languages, and I think that's where the philology came into play. I think that's how you say it. I think that's the study of languages. But he studied languages, and he, made up his own language. Quenya, I think that's how you say it, based on the Welsh language, I think. And, he just seemed like a really fascinating guy, like really intriguing, and, definitely, crush worthy a little bit. But yeah, so I'm really, and this kind of re-inspired me or reminded me of how I wanted to, study Tolkien and not just, and read some of his other writings. Like, I would love to get his Father Christmas letters. Those were letters where he pretended to be Father Christmas and all the beings and creatures that lived up in the North Pole with Father Christmas, and wrote all these letters to his children. And I think he had did he have 3 kids? I think there were 3 kids. And so I would like to read that as well. But so far I just have the letters from Tolkien. I want to read that. I bought that last year. And I have The Fall of Arthur and the legend, I think, of Sigurd, which I don't know. I still don't know if I'm saying that right. I need to, see if I can get a pronunciation. I mean, I think Google offers that where you can hear the pronunciation of something. And I also have, and of course I have the Silmarillion and the Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings. And there's a few, the Unfinished Tales. I'm looking over my shelf as we speak. The Unfinished Tales, Tales of the Perilous Realms, and let's see, The Fall of Gondolin. Yeah, I think that's what I have so far. I don't have, and then I have this other book that's like some other. I can't tell. I can't read the titles from this far away. But I have a few other books over there that are Middle Earth / Tolkien related. That, like, a Tolkien companion or something, you know. Like, I have so many, and I need to, you know, organize them all, like, put them, you know, write them all, write a list of all of them. But so I want to, you know, read all those things. And so what I would like, I feel like I have 3 categories. And I guess these would be kind of like terms, what I would do in each term. Like, you know, what influenced Tolkien? Like, what works of literature did he read that influenced him? And then also you have Tolkien's writing. And, you know, I feel like there would be 2 sections. There would be, like, Tolkien, like, writing the Middle Earth type writing, like, all the stuff that he wrote about that is related to Middle Earth, like Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit, The Silmarillion, The Unfinished Tales, The Fall of Gondolin, and, but then you also have the writing that's not related to Middle Earth, like The Fall of Arthur, the Sigrid or whatever. I don't know if the Perilous Realms, where would that fall under, if that's a Middle Earth related. I have to look at the letters from Tolkien that I have. If I had Father Christmas, the letters from Father Christmas, I would read those as well, but I don't have those. Maybe I'll get those for Christmas. Or maybe I'll buy it on my Kindle. And then I have, let's see, I do not know what else would be, off the top of my head at least. But yeah, basically, and then I also, and you know, there's writings, and then of course the other part of that is all the, so yeah, so we have 2 parts. I would have the actual Middle Earth related content to read that, and then all the stuff that's not related to Middle Earth. And then I would like to do a category of people that, you know, that were inspired by Tolkien, like, for instance, what is his name? The Wheel of Time guy. Wheel of Time, basically. I like to read that as part of this class. And I don't know if there's anyone else that I would like to. Now, the list of influences would be kind of that were people that influenced Tolkien. It could potentially be long. Or potentially I will have to, like, that would be done over time. Like, I don't have a lot so yet. But like, there's he was inspired by mythology, Icelandic literature, which I would be curious. There's one of the booktubers I follow, Emmy. I wonder because she had recently, with her friend Caroline Marie, I remember they read The Lord of the Rings as part of their own book club. Just like, you know, the Book of Tomes, or I can't remember what they call their book club, but I remember last year they read Lord of the Rings, and then I hear that Emmy got, and I want to say she got in, you know, started reading Icelandic literature after. I don't know if before or after, but I would love to, you know, next time I watch one of her videos, I'm going to ask her in the comments if she was inspired to read Icelandic literature after she read, or knowing, or either before or after Tolkien, because, like, was she inspired by Tolkien to check out Icelandic literature? Because I remember I read in the biography that was one of, you know, what inspired and was what influenced him. He had read, and he also read Norse mythology, and as well. And now, I was inspired to get into Norse mythology before Tolkien because I kind of wanted to know, like, there are channels I watch, like Jean from Jean's Book of Thoughts, who is very familiar with a lot of mythology and has read a lot of mythology, and but I'm a big Marvel fan, and well, not a big fan. I haven't read I should say the MCU. I'm a big fan of the MCU because I have not read the comics. I tried reading comics once and it didn't work out. I just could not get into it. But I love the MCU, and Loki, like a lot of people, is one of my favorite characters. And I think that's kind of it. And I started being curious about Loki, the actual god of mischief, like the actual mythology of the character. And because the original Norse figure, not the character from the Marvel comics, or the MCU, but the actual the Norse mythology. And one of the channels I watch, John Solo, he does a lot of videos where he will talk about the myths and stuff. He will explain them and narrate them to you. He won't actually like read the myth and read it to you, but he'll explain it to you and the origins of it and everything. And that kind of also got me interested. His channel. If you are interested in mythology, he makes it, lays it out in a way that's easy to understand. But so it was before Tolkien that I was interested in Norse mythology anyway, and it was also kind of one of these things where you hear so much about Greek mythology, and I wanted to read about one of the mythologies that you don't, is popular, but it seems like at times before the MCU, there was a lot of focus on, lately in the book community, there was more focus on Greek rather than Norse. Although there have been some great, like there was a book based on Loki's wife, which I attempted to read, but I never finished. I just wasn't feeling it at the time. Like, in fact, I feel bad for saying this, but I kind of wanted the Loki from the MCU. And this version of Loki was a little too immature for me. But I don't know if that's really how he is. But I do want to read the actual Norse mythology, and that will work for my class, my Tolkien class. So yeah, I kind of want to do, and I feel like this will be a fun way to go about it, like a project. And like I said, I'm a big nerd, and I don't think all readers would label themselves as nerds. And I do it proudly. I don't look at it as a bad thing, I look at it as I'm excited to, look at reading in a fun but academic, fun/academic kind of way. And then the other project is the Asian Literature Project. And I recently purchased the end of August, which is translated from the Korean. The author is Yoon Murray? I don't know if I'm saying that right. But it's one of these, multi-generational stories where this woman learns about her family. And I think it's woman. It might be is that Lee? Actually, this might be a guy. Lee Woo Chol. Oh no. Okay, so that's the guy from the 1940s, and then you have the modern day timeline, which is a girl, is his granddaughter. Okay, so sorry, it's been a few days, so I don't remember what was on the back of the book. But yeah, and it's translated by Morgan Giles. Every time I see the name Giles, I think of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and Buffy's her watcher, Giles. Rupert Giles. But yeah, so I recently got this, and this again was another, reigniting my Asian literature challenge, my Asian literature project. So I haven't worked on that. I haven't planned that one. I haven't planned that one out as much as the one on Tolkien, but that's because I recently started thinking about this and actually planning it out and coming up with a syllabus and like having a plan. Like I said, I'm gonna make sure I don't put pressure on myself and don't drive myself crazy. I want this to be fun. And to me, this can be fun. And just determining how I do it, how I execute it. Not treating it so seriously as if I'm getting a grade for it, because I'm not. I'm not getting a grade for it. I'm not getting, it's not going to determine the rest of my life, because this is just for me. I'm not showing this to anyone. I'm not, gonna write an ad. Well, I might write about my experience. Although I probably won't, because I'll get lazy. Although I shouldn't say that, because then that will inevitably mean it won't happen. So yeah, I might write about it, right? But I want to treat it I want to make it fun. I want to make it entertaining for me. But yeah, so I just want to make a video about that, just to talk about it. Because I started planning and I got excited because I was like, and then I remembered, I attempted to film a video yesterday. Now, when you see it, it will be 2 days later, but since, it will be Saturday, and I attempted to film on Thursday and it didn't go well. So I was like, oh, let me just try this out. Let me just go ahead and try to film this. And, if I don't like it, I can start over and redo it and try again on Sunday when I have a day off. And I could just practice this now. And see how I feel about it. Hopefully this will take. And if not, what I'm saying doesn't matter. But anyway, if you guys, I hope you found this video interesting, and, and do you like, what do you think of my idea? I would love to know. I'm gonna be curious what people think. If people think it's, either way, I'm gonna do it, because to me it is fun. I think just as long as I don't take it too seriously. And I hope you are currently enjoying whatever you're reading. Have you read, if any of you guys watching, have any of you guys read, Lord of the Rings? I mean, I'm a lot of, if you're a fantasy fan, you probably at least heard of Lord of the Rings if you haven't actually read the book. Maybe you've seen the movies. Or are you, familiar with the Rory Gilmore reading list, or, have you read any good Asian literature lately? Are there any books that you feel are a challenge, are intimidating to you? That you would like to, challenge yourself to read this year. Like I said, I don't mean as in, put pressure on yourself, but do it for fun. See if you can do it, and see if you can if you can find the magic in that story, or find the fun in that story. So I will talk to you all later. All right, bye.